You went to the wrestling national U.S. team trials this weekend, Steve. How was that?
Good event. They did a good job. For as much as we talk about, we'll be again nitpicking on events. I thought the wrestling trials came off well. For anything that happened functionally, operationally, it all seemed smooth from a fan standpoint. Um, I think when they're back in 4 or 8 years, which they will be, just because it went so well, the only thing that seemed a little minor league about the effort was they did a fan fest in Pagula, and they had like 12 vendors on where the ice should have been, and everybody had to kind of walk down to the ice and go through the where the ice was and go through the dasher boards.
Mm.
The footprint wasn't big enough for it. And by then, by the time they come back again, they'll have a new practice facility north of Jeffrey, so they can do it in there. Um, but good event and great. It was fun to watch the Penn State people wrestle with who to cheer for, right? When it was Penn State on Penn State on the mat, right? Probably a little disrespectful to Jordan Burroughs, even though maybe he brought some of that upon himself, but probably a shade disrespectful. But no, good event all the way around.
Let's. I think we need to talk about the main match of the weekend, which was Aaron Brooks and David Taylor. Um, what was that like to experience in person? Because I was very jealous. This is one of the first times I've been jealous of Steve on this podcast.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. It was also like, shit, Aaron's better than David, right? Like there's that piece of David Taylor that you've invested in for the 4 years of being one of the faces of the program, three-time world champion, Olympic champion. And he scored 2 points
Yeah.
in two matches, right? Like it was 4-1 and 3-1. Um, so yeah, it was a little air out of the balloon for me because I don't know if I was ready for the torch to be passed. And I don't know that it fully is. I think David Taylor's still maybe the second best guy in the world, honestly, at that weight. Um, but you kind of knew, like it was just like, oh, okay,
It
okay,
was kind of an emotional moment. Like
yeah,
it was for somebody that most of my wrestling knowledge comes and starts from the David Taylor era on. It was a very like that moment at the end when they were both on the mat together and they were hugging each other on their knees. I was like, oh, this is a little like goosebumpy. Like it was tough, not tough to watch, but it was I guess it was tough to watch. I don't know. It was weird. In like it was kind of one of those things like Saturday night, like the rest of the night. It's just kind of like, pardon the pun, but wrestling with it that like, oh, we just watched Aaron Brooks take down David Taylor and I mean, you thought it could happen, but you didn't think it was gonna happen type thing. You know what I mean?
yeah, oh, yeah. No, it
Um,
was exactly that, right? Like, and David Taylor and I have nothing in common except dad of daughters, right? And that was kind of where I felt like afterward when they're done, I'm like, okay, this guy's going to be a hell of a good father. Like, I think he's got wrestling in him left, but it was just like, okay, that part of my fandom for that thing is over. And it was a really neat weekend in a lot of ways. Like we had an event for my college downtown at the Graduate Hotel on Friday night before the second session. So I had to get in the elevator and get downstairs and get across campus. And I'm getting in the elevator and I'm by myself. And there's this little group of people outside the three elevators waiting to get in one. I'm like, hey, folks, you're going to wrestling, right? And they're like, yeah, because I could see who the people were. I'm like, come on in. And it was Dan Gable and his entourage, right? So I rode the elevator down with Dan Gable. That was kind of cool. And then we see Jaden Cox, who's a longtime Olympic and national level wrestler who retires. I'd never seen that. Like I'd never seen a guy actually leave
leave his shoes.
his shoes on the mat, right? Which was really cool. And the Jordan Center did a good job giving him a standing ovation. And then you got Brooks and Taylor, right? Like it was all of those things that made the on mat, and it was fun. But yeah, it was a little bittersweet. Like I'm young, but you know,
I
bittersweet.
think I think for me though, I will say at least it's a good dude.
Mhm.
Like you know what I mean? Like Aaron Brooks has handled himself very well, and I think that goes a long way. And I mean, I don't know. I said it. He's the best athlete. It's might not even be close now. He's different. I mean, for as much as we felt about David Taylor, it very much feels the same way, and maybe then some about Aaron Brooks.
Yeah, he just makes it looks effortless, right?
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
what's
most
scary.
impressive about it. Yeah.
That's what's scary. Like there was there was one point he had David on his like, quite literally on his heels, and I was like, oh, this might be it. So okay.